Coming up on this episode of the Spiro podcast.
Us as creators being attached to the product, it's different because we think only we can create it. And this is going to sound terrible, but I don't care how good you are, someone else can create that.
Welcome to the Spiro podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. With your hosts, Todd Kivimaki and Craig Magrum.
Hi, and welcome to the Spiro podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. Spiro is a software platform designed to help you really manage your day-to-day business, help you grow, help you scale, and just bring a lot of efficient tools to you to benefit your business and your clients. I'm Craig Magrum. I am the host of the Spiro podcast, and along with me each and every week, our Spiro owner and founder and co-host of the podcast, Todd Kivimaki. It's finally starting to feel a little bit like fall outside here in Northwest Ohio.
It is, Craig, officially, yes. It's good to be on today with all of you. And you know what? We're in this dad's group at church, and they do a fantasy football league. So all of you fantasy football leaguers out there. So I realized yesterday was Thursday. We record this Friday morning. I realized there was a football game on last night. All of a sudden my phone was blown up. I had like 23 messages missed. And I'm just like, oh, so, the guys are talking about football. I don't really care for football. Hopefully I don't offend any of you for that. For our international listeners, this is football Americano. This is American football, not the real football with your foot.
Right.
But I'm like, oh, I guess we're playing football. Somebody's playing football. Hope I better check my lineup. And then we use the ESPN app. So I go to search for ESPN, but for some reason, ESPN doesn't call their app ESPN. They call it fantasy. So I was a whole bunch of on the struggle bus last night. I couldn't even find the app where my lineup was at. Luckily I had lineups were set. But anyways, welcome to fall. It's football time here in America, and I am really excited.
I can tell. I like watching football, but usually just Ohio State, and I don't pay any attention to the pros. Sorry, guys. Anyway. All right. Well, let's dive into things. Todd, we got a few things we want to talk about before we dive into our main topic, which was a listener suggested topic this week. We appreciate you, Cam, for giving us this idea to talk about. But Todd, let's start with updates on the software. What's going on with Spiro these days?
Yes, I was trying to just set a clock here to do 1 minute, but it'll take me more than 1 minute to get to it. So really quick, guys, there's a lot of you that asked for this. So on pay before download, which we've had forever, you want your clients to see a preview of your images. No problem. It's done now. If you use pay before download, your clients will see a preview of your images, and they will be watermarked, watermarked across the image. They can view them. They can even enlarge them. Those watermarks are there for a purpose. So that is in the system now. They pay for it. Watermarks go away. Pretty cool stuff. Awesome. Along with that, we built the library to add branding. So we put the watermark on. It uses the same library. We built it a little bit bigger. So now when your clients download photos, they can add branding. They can upload their logo. They can put it on the left, the center, or the right, big, medium, or small. Also, this gives you an opportunity to upsell them. You could do design services. This is what we're going to do at WOW. We're going to offer a lower third branding package where we'll create Tessa, our designer, will create a lower third branding graphic, their head cut out, headshot, and then all their graphics at the bottom. We'll give it to them. They can upload it, and then they can add that branding on any listing we do. So That is in there. We have new client login options. We've modified it a little bit. So you will come to the login screen to your order page, and clients can either log in with a PIN, no passwords. We make it simple. They can either create an account. So we'll get their information right there. That's new that we collect their information. So you users, people that are using Spiro already, you have a new email template that you can send to them to welcome them into your system. The third option for login is just see pricing. So Mark Shipley, thank you for this suggestion. He's like, I have people that come to my order page and they just want to see the prices. I'm like, yes, they definitely do. So we set see pricing button, boom, it goes away, and then they can see your pricing. They could continue to place an order. They would log in later. So
great suggestion.
Lastly, Yeah, thank you, Mark, for that. Lastly, we have a referral program, y'all. Some of you are using it. If you know someone, or if you post in the Facebook groups or wherever else the other, other real estate photographers are at, use your referral code. They get $30 credit in their account, and you then get 10% credit of anything they spend forever added back to your account to use. So use it for free.
Nice.
Refer a few people, use it for free. So don't forget that's in there as well.
Very cool. Some great updates. And we'd love hearing the ideas from you, our listeners, for the software. So keep those coming. All right. PMRE coming up very quickly. We're getting closer. That is coming up the first, let's see, what is it? The 8th and 9th in November?
That's the second, the 8th and 9th. Yeah, you're right, Craig. That's the 8th and 9th in November in Las Vegas. They have their speaker lineup posted now. So if you want to go and see who's speaking, you can see that at pmreconference.com. If you want to book a ticket, they have in-person and also virtual tickets. Just send me an email. I have a coupon code for you to use that will take $50 off your order. Again, you can check them out at pmreconference.com. We'll be there, booth 10. Come say hello to us.
Yeah. I'll be back in Northwest Ohio.
This is funny. Guys. We're hitting a little technical glitch. Craig, so both times Craig is frozen in a way that it looks like he's looking at me like like he's like giving me this look like, what are you saying, Todd? So the thing about football, he was like frozen, like he had this angry face. And I was like, wow, Craig really likes football. I shouldn't have said that. I offended him. And then you just froze there. And you made me second guess if I even said the right, any of the right words, but I see that you were just frozen in both cases. So it's good to have you unfrozen now, Craig.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I've got really good internet. I don't know what's going on. All right.
One more, guys. The week before, you guys all know him, Eli Jones, incredible individual. He's put out a ton of training in the community. He's trained probably half of y'all out there, if not more. But he has his conference the week before. The rep conference, and that is November 3rd and 4th. So his presenters are on as well. He's in Vegas. So just do them both in a row. Stay a couple days. I'm going to go in early. I'm going to be at both conferences. So there's a couple of overlap days in between. So let me know if you're staying in between. We'll go find something to do. I think Pete's going to be there with me. I know he's staying for both of them. So if you are staying for both of them, let me know. But REP, REPP, that's Real Estate Photographer Pro. That's the course and the program that Eli has created. And you can find it at REP Conference, and you can book a ticket now. I think tickets to both events are selling quickly. So grab one, book your plane ticket too. Save a little money, book it now before they go up.
Yep, it'll be a good time to get some further education for yourself and meet other individuals in the industry, and just exchange ideas, talk shop, share horror stories, all the fun stuff. All right,
exactly.
All right. Well, Todd, we like we said at the beginning of the podcast, we have a topic this week suggested to us by one of our listeners, Cam, who wrote this in. I'll let you set this up.
Yeah, so Cam gave me a few podcast ideas. Thank you for those, Cam. And I had a great conversation with him and his brother, Matt. And they're wanting to scale. He's wanting to scale. And just an idea of when to hire, who to hire, how do I structure the hiring? What happens if my clients are used to me? Will a new person be accepted? So we're going to cover all those. We're actually going to spend the most time probably on the last one. I have a few ideas. The last 2 points. So the structure, the legal structure of how you hire, and then also, will your clients be okay with someone different showing up to the house if they're just used to you? So we're going to spend some time on. Yeah, that is a big one. Craig, you and I both experienced that and went through that and had to find pivots to that, or had to find, you had to just be okay with some of the gaps that are in that process. So you have to go through it if you want to scale your business. So I'm excited to get to that one. Yeah, for sure. Well, let's start at the most basic, question of this whole topic of hiring somebody. When is the right time to hire somebody? Before we even talk about who to hire and what skills are needed, when do you hire somebody, Todd? Yeah, great question. And Craig, let's do a fun little game here. Let's change this up. I didn't warn you about this, but
Oh boy.
so y'all, we have some questions typed down here, like when to hire, who to hire, where do I find people? Craig and I have both gone through this. And so Craig, why don't we tell everybody what the question is? You say what your exact experience was. I'll say what my exact experience was. They might be the same. They might be different, but at least they'll get our real world thinking of what we were going through when we scaled our business.
All right, Todd. So when did you find it was finally time to hire somebody else to help you? Because you started by shooting, you were the original photographer, right? So when was that point for you?
Yeah. So for me, I had graduated from college. I had been shooting for 2 years at the time. I had about 3 brokerage deals. At that point, I just could not physically shoot all of the jobs. I had more jobs coming in. I hired a part-time buddy of mine, Ryan Lawrence, who's our head of production now. And he was a school teacher. He just worked for me in the summers. And that's what I did to begin with. And that was my first hire. Beyond that, I hired the second time real hires. Like Ryan had a second career, and I knew it was just temporary for him to work with me in the summers. But my next hires came when I was working probably 14 hours a day, 15 hours a day, and my bookkeeping was behind 6 months. That's when I knew I physically could not do it anymore, and my clients were starting to suffer. I could keep up with the shooting and I could keep up with the editing. I just worked the 14 to 16 hours a day, but I could not get to the bookkeeping. It wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my clients. I hired somebody to help me with that. So I might have pushed it too long, Craig. I don't know, but I personally like to really, really push it before I hire to make sure, one, I understand that the growth's sustainable. 2, I know what I'm doing. Like I was still perfecting systems back then. And when you hire someone, you got to tell them what to do. So if you're still figuring things out, it's not going to be a great scenario. So I wanted to make sure that I had things figured out.
Okay.
So what about you, Craig? When did you hire?
Yeah, so mine was slightly differently. There were some similarities, but when I started my business before I joined the WOW team, WOW was actually a part of my business. WOW was kind of the back end to my business, and I was the first beta tester for the Spiro software before it even had a name. So I had systems in place and I had training already. So I didn't have that headache that you dealt with, Todd. So I was able to get out there and really start shooting right away and had a good foundation right off the bat. So I was thankful for that. But it got to the same point where it was physically impossible for me to shoot everything that was starting to come in because my business in the Northwest Ohio area grew pretty quick. A lot faster than I expected. And I hired a part-time person to take the overflow of what I couldn't get to. Once I filled up my day with appointments, then I would start to schedule jobs to Becca is who I hired. And she was actually my intern at a radio station that I used to manage. So I knew Becca's background. I knew her work ethic, and I knew she was going to be a great addition to my team and really good with people. So that's when I hired somebody, because what I was finding, especially during the busy season, during the summer, here in Ohio, is I was booked all day shooting, and I suddenly had no opportunity to really follow up with clients and have conversations, check in with people, make sure they were happy, get feedback, consult with them with further ideas. So during busy season, my sales effort or my consultation effort ceased. All I was doing was shooting, and I hated that because I'm very relational in how I do my business. I'd like to make sure I'm taking good care of people. And if I'm not talking to people, and more importantly, if I'm not listening to people, you lose that part of the relationship. And I knew I needed to get back to that. So I needed additional help. So that's when I hired somebody. It was when, 1, I physically couldn't do all the jobs, and 2, realized I'm having no conversations with clients and all I'm doing is shooting.
Yeah. I did, Craig. I had the luxury of doing it almost before anyone else did it. So when I was scaling, 17 years ago, I was right out of college. I started 19 years ago, but I was 2 years in. Literally nobody was taking a video camera. I only did video at the time. So I had the luxury of people would just see me, and it was the only game in town. Right. And so I had that luxury where I think you were very smart to manage and know you had to build the relationships. You still didn't have as much competition as out there in the market today, but you did have competition. Right. Yeah. And it was good of you to sense that you needed to build those relationships.
So we kind of know, based on our experiences, roughly when you need to hire somebody, but every business is going to be a little bit different, and you might need help in a different area than what we did. So the next question, Todd, would be then, okay, well, who do I hire?
Yeah. So for me, like I said, I hired Ryan, who was a photographer. I just had the jobs coming in. If I were to do it again today, I love Ryan. I hired him full time. He helps run WOW. But I would make sure that I am outsourcing my editing. Again, 17 years ago, you didn't outsource editing. It didn't exist. If it did, I didn't know about it. We were editing everything on our own. That would be the first money that I spend. And I would find a good partner and an editor. I would find a good partner and a virtual assistant that could help me with some of those tasks. That would be my first hire today. Back then, like I mentioned, I hired a photographer because I had more jobs than I could physically shoot. And then I hired a bookkeeper to come on and make sure that I had good structural foundation, a good structural foundation to the books, and that I was everything was healthy. So that's who I hired. What about you, Craig?
Well, it's kind of funny. Again, different experience, but what you just suggested is actually, now that I think about it, my first hire was not Becca, a photographer. It was actually WOW Video Tours, because WOW did my editing for me. And that allowed me to scale from doing I think I was doing 2 shoots a day and then going home and editing and turning those around the next business day, to then when I hired my outsourced editor, I was able to do 6 to 7 shoots a day. So yeah, that made a massive impact on my business. So then my second hire would have been another photographer. So yeah, good point there.
Awesome. Okay, Craig, what about, where did you find, you mentioned this, but where did you find people? You hired a few, so I know you knew Becca, but where did you find people? And you're related to me, so that's where you found me.
Right. We're in-laws, for those of you watching and listening. So where did I find people? Yeah, like I said, my very first photographer hire was a former intern in another career field. But then my second photographer that I'd hired was actually referred to me by one of my clients. My very first client was also a campus pastor at a local church. And he had this young guy on his media team that helped run camera, that was looking for, some part-time work, and loved good media, photography, video, and introduced me to Kenan, and, talked with him, and I really liked Kenan, saw some of his work. And so it was a referral from a client for me. And those are the only 2 people that, besides WOW, that I actually hired. I was more boutique. I got to a certain point where I didn't really grow my team beyond that. But that's a whole different podcast discussion on how much do you want to grow?
Yeah, for us, so naturally when we were small, I hired people I knew. So Ryan was best friends with him. He was my roommate in college. So, I'd grown up with him in school, went to college with him. And so I hired him. And he was the first person that, when I knew I had the business, I hired him then. And he had stepped away from his teaching career and came on and has been with WOW since. Derek was my next hire. I actually had hired his who is now wife, Liz. I knew her from somewhere in the community. She had done something with Nick Kellis, who was on a couple of podcasts ago. So my first hires were people I knew, and then Derek would come around because he was dating Liz, and Derek and I got to talking. So beyond that, I don't always recommend. I think it's good to start with people who you know, but now we've hired over 100 photographers over the years, and we've probably had about 75 employees over the years. Well, maybe not that many. Anyways, we have a staff of 16 right now. We're a little bit smaller because of the market. But the way that we do it from just a business standpoint is we still have good luck with Indeed. We use that when it works in our area. I know Facebook has some job posting, and there's some other sites out there. But primarily when we have an open position, we post it on Indeed. I will say there is something about having a correct job posting. We've learned over the years of what a job posting should be, what it should contain, what it should not contain, how to attract applicants. It would be fun to go back and read some of the first job postings we put out there, because how people replied to them, I have no clue, but they gave us a shot.
Well, let me pick your brain on that then real quick. You just said two things: what to include in a job posting and what not to include. So just for a bonus here, what do you not include in a job posting? I'm kind of curious now.
Yeah, well, when you hire someone, it's all about just setting proper expectations and making sure that they can come and succeed at your company. Mm-hmm. And when you transition from just a small little family company to more of a company where you're attracting individuals to maybe to leave a different career and come to you, mm-hmm. They want to see that you have foundational pieces. They want to see that you're a sound business. They want to see growth. They want to see that you're not stagnant. We found that. And that's not true for every applicant, but a lot of the applicants, and especially when we grew, we knew we had to find people that wanted to grow, because growth means that you're going to screw things up. It means that there's going to be a lot of change. We found out that our core values were important. People want to come in and know what you stand for. They don't want to know about just, the family feel only goes so far, and you have to use it as far as you can, but you do owe it to the people that work for you to have structural pieces in your company, an idea of what the job description is going to be, clear expectations of their duties, what the hours are, what the pay is. You need to be competitive with pay. Can you do healthcare? Is it a 1099 position? Do you do a 401k? What are your benefits? That was another thing. People started to ask me very early on, was the benefits. I was like, oh, well, I'd stutter because we didn't have anything. It's like, oh yeah, I think I'm fun to work with. which I wasn't when we were scared. Yeah. Well, sometimes, but yeah, those are all the things that you need to make sure you have. And even just like in the interview process, Craig, like we have set questions that we always ask in the interview, and you do that to be consistent with all of your interviews. And then we have multiple people interview them throughout the process. They ask the same questions. They give a rating and they rate the applicant. This all comes back to, a small committee that looks over it. So all of those things are important. I didn't do a lot of them at first, and we still are not perfect with hiring, but those are a lot of the things that you really owe your applicants. And it's easy to find. Just go on Indeed and search for your competition, or search in another industry, and just take inspiration from their job posting and, kind of mimic those categories.
Right. So Indeed, Facebook, you might have state organizations or labor boards that you can share jobs to. Lots of different options to get word out about what the role is that you're looking for. Let me go
schools,
back.
You mentioned, with Ken, and I know he's at your church, but I don't know if he was just coming out of a media school, but we've had a lot of media schools approach us over the years and say, hey, can you put something together that would just show our students that there's a career in real estate photography? And could we partner with you to potentially send, new grads your way? But that's another thought, schools that are local to you. Sorry, Craig, you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to go back real quick and mention a couple other types of roles that you might consider hiring when you're thinking about your growth plan. And that's also your sales team or your business development team, and a bookkeeper. Todd, you mentioned, being behind 6 months on the books, and I'm not. I don't like crunching numbers either. I would spend my Saturday mornings working on books because I just didn't have time for it during the week. And I can think of about 20 million other things on a Saturday morning I'd rather be doing
Yeah.
than crunching numbers. But that's kind of a critical part of your business. So finding somebody to help you manage the financial side of your business would be critically important as well.
Get segment along, get to progress at it. But for now, or now, I mean, Spiro does it all for us, or most of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we still bring the data back in. We run a P&L. You have to reconcile your expenses, but it's a lot more systemized now. The invoicing is done automatically. So a lot of that can be streamlined.
Right.
I was just still creating these things, 17 years ago.
Right. Okay. Something else you said. Let's tackle another question in the hiring process. You mentioned whether bringing somebody on as a full-time employee, a W-2, or a contractor, a 1099 here in the U.S. What do you have to evaluate to determine whether what path you're going to take on the type of person you're bringing on?
Yeah, basically, this boils down to control. Do you need control over that individual? Just a disclaimer here. I am not an attorney, so take this advice with a grain of salt. We've worked with both W-2 and 1099. We've had a lot of dealings, and I've had a lot of conversations with attorneys about it. I've read the rules. Every state has a list of probably 20 items that can or cannot qualify a person to be a 1099 or an employee. Basically, what it comes down to is if you are going to tell that person what to do, where to be, how to do it, then they're probably an employee. If you are going to contract with an individual and they have control, they can tell you yes or no on a job. They have control to say this job is X versus that job is Y. They set everything about their own business. You're simply just hiring them to perform a service for you. Then you could probably prove that they're a contractor. On this one, you need to just pony up and maybe talk to an attorney to get a good idea. But if you need to control that person, you arrive at 9, these are the items that you do. This is the way you answer the phone. This is the way you do all these items. Then they're probably an employee.
Good insight, Todd. Yeah, definitely things you have to consider when you're determining the type of role that you're bringing on. So good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Now, the question we hinted to, it wasn't a hint. We just said outright, this is probably the one we want to talk about the most, is the question of when you're considering hiring somebody and you've worked with your clients for, say, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they've gotten used to you. They've developed a relationship with you. The question of, will my clients ever be satisfied with anyone but me? I have the relationship with the client. This is a hard one, Todd.
This is a tough one. And this was, and I don't know that it necessarily has to be a tough one if you do it correctly, because this happens in business all the time. There is typically a salesperson in a process, and that's the person that the client has a relationship with. And it's very common that someone else comes and does the work. We typically are one-man bands, especially when we start. And we're also the creators. So it's close to us. If we weren't creators, it would not be difficult. If you came from a different industry and you came in with more of a systems brain or, not a creative brain, it would be very simple for you because you weren't attached to the product. Us as creators being attached to the product, it's different because we think only we can create it. And this is going to sound terrible, but I don't care how good you are, someone else can create that. They can do it. And quite honestly, they can probably do it better in time because they're not so attached to it. That's what I've found as employees and contractors came on over the years is it's like, wow, they're doing it better than me. You have to find the right individual. The big thing is, and this is my big point for this, is you have to train them to be you. If you don't, they don't have to look and sound like you. They don't have to say the same things, but they have to perform the service to an adequate level. They have to meet the expectations of the client. and all will be well. It's all guys and girls out there. It's all about managing your clients' expectations. I was reading a book and they gave an example, and this individual, and I forget what the book was. If I remember, I'll put in the show notes, but individual changed the barbershops that they went to and went to the new one and had this great experience. Walked in, they were greeted at the door. They were told how long it would be before they went back. They were offered something to drink, water, refreshments. And, in the time that in less than the time that they expected to go back and sit in the chair, they were called. The person who was cutting their hair came and greeted them, warm towel in the face, talked to them, and set this great experience. Mm-hmm. And the person was blown away with it. It's like, this is great. And then they went back, they rebooked because they loved the experience. They went back the second time and there was no one at the door that greeted them. They sat down, they waited a little bit longer than they would have anticipated. They were offered a soft drink or a water, no warm towel. And the experience was so different that expectations were it was such a letdown. And that is what you have to manage when you send somebody else into the listing for you. It's a you thing, not a them thing. What are you doing? And I found this out the hard way because I found out over the years, like, oh, I do that little thing. Like, oh, I move those things. Oh, I cleaned that up. Oh, I took the sweeper out. I moved the beds. I made the bed. Like, oh, Todd, you really set the next individual up to fail because you actually told them not to do that. Mm-mm. Well, if that's what your clients were used to, it's not that they dislike the person that you sent. It's just that you did not train the individual to deliver the expectations of the client that you had already been delivering. So, wow, Ryan has done a fabulous job with this, and probably because he experienced it from me to him, because he would walk in after me or in place of me. And Ryan's got an incredible personality and people love him. But he was like, oh, Todd did that. And he would pick up on it really quick and he would do it. But then I hired Ryan to write the book of how we train, which is hundreds of pages. And it is that way because now we have 24 photographers that walk in and they're all their own personality, but they deliver the same experience. Y'all, we literally, and I've said this on the podcast before, we literally train our photographers on how to turn on and off light switches.
Yeah.
Like, as crazy as that sounds, we tell them how to turn on and off light switches because we've been there, done that. When you flip on a switch and you don't think it does anything, but you actually flipped on a gas fireplace. And if you don't, and if you don't flip that sucker off in July and you leave the house and the homeowner comes back and it's 87 degrees in their house,
and there's a fire running with unattended.
And there's a fire running unattended. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll wear that badge of failure. We did that. We learned from it because we didn't tell our individuals what to look for. Yeah. We always look for it. Flip it on. Does it do anything? If not, flip it off. It's that simple. Just tell them and your clients really will be fine. You might have like a 1% fallout rate. You might, and you just have to deal with that because in order to grow 100%, you might lose 1%. That's a good trade-off, y'all. Yeah. But you got to train your people. So sorry, long-winded, Craig. You've trained some people, you had people in place. What was your experience with people not getting you?
I'm going to be honest. Mine was harder because even though I tried my best to train to the the way that you just explained, light switches, moving garbage cans, little things that you do to make the picture better, how to compose the photo, the angles that we're looking for, things like. I tried all of that, and I still had a hard time with a small handful. It might not have been 1%. It might have been a little bit more, but I still had some clients. Let me go to the positive side first. I don't want to lead with negative. Quite a few of my clients, a good majority, really liked the new hire that I brought in to shoot their property.
Mm-hmm.
The quality of the photos was what they expected. They were pleasant in person, interacted well. So for the majority of my clients, they accepted it. And they still got me once in a while as well. And I would still check in with them. So I was able to maintain that relationship, which was my goal, was to be able to talk with them and not be so busy that I couldn't even talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped, being able to continue to do business development and consulting with them. But admittedly, then let me go then to the challenging side. I still had a small handful of very, very good clients, but very demanding, and just had it in their head that the new photographer just didn't shoot the same way I did. They're showing too much ceiling. I can remember this one experience specifically that she insisted I come out and reshoot the photos. And I looked at them and I told the client, I said, I'm just going to be honest with you. This is exactly how I would shoot this. And here's why. And I explained why. Mm-hmm. Some clients are just going to have it stuck in their head that because it's not you, it's not the same. Now, it could be little things that, one thing I do is I'll tell the homeowner if they're there, hey, you made a great choice in choosing, so-and-so realtor. I've worked with them for a number of years, and they go all out to really visually market your home well. So you've made a great choice, because I'm not just their photographer. I'm their marketing consultant. I'm trying to help them build their business. Now, that's because that was my business, and I was adding that value to them as part of their team. And to ask a contractor to do that, or an employee that doesn't have the same necessarily vested interest in the business that I do as the owner, that can be a challenge. But if you find the right people, they're going to catch that culture and understand the why of what you're doing and what you're saying and how you're representing your client at that appointment. That was also a long-winded answer. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And, my devil's advocate would be just all those little things, just train on it. They might not say it the same way you would say it, Craig, but if you role play in those, they'll get it out. And, I know we've done a lot of that over the years, and some of the language that we use in difficult situations, houses not being ready, things like that, is the same things that Ryan and myself used to say, and we've practiced with them over the years.
Sure.
But I would agree with you that there is just something about working with the owner, the creator of the business, and you just will lose some people who want to work with the owner. And that's really where you have to decide what your goals are of a company. Because at that point, if you want to dig in and become this niched boutique business, it could be a really cool business. You could 3x your prices and you could still grow.
Yeah.
Growing doesn't mean more jobs. That's what it meant for me at WOW. It doesn't have to mean that for you. It could mean 3x your ASP. It's all growth. Just what do you want? It's your business. The business works for you to achieve your personal goals. Write them down, set them, and then put a plan together to achieve, so that your business can work for you, not the other way around, not you for it.
Right. Great insight. Not a whole lot more to add. So can we kind of wrap this up and summarize the things that you need to take into consideration when hiring?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go through this again now. Okay, so number one, decide when is the right time to hire somebody.
Yeah.
Number two, who is it that I need to hire? What's the role and what's the type of person I'm looking for? So when, who, where. You got to decide, where am I going to advertise this? These are all good W's here. So when, who, where. Now the next one, the fourth thing to consider, employee or contractor. You got to decide on that. And then finally, your strategy on how you're going to make that transition to introducing a new employee, especially a photographer, to your clients. Good summary?
Yeah. Yeah. And that one probably starts with, and this is a pun off the book, Simon Sinek, but starts with why. Put the why before all those. Why do you want to do it? Do you want to grow because you want to shoot 12,000 jobs a year or 120,000 jobs a year? Or do you just want to shoot 1,200 a year, but you want to increase your standard of living? So start with why and then go through all those. I think it's a great summary, Craig.
There you go. All right. Good topic. Again, thank you to Cam for asking that question. And if you have a question about the business side of real estate photography and video, maybe it's bookkeeping. We've done an episode on that.
No, don't. We'll just reject the email. If you have bookkeeping in it, there's going to be auto response. It just sends it back.
We'll link them to the previous episode we did on that with Derek.
You go.
we have covered that.
It's important. It's important. Yeah,
it is. But anyway, if you have a business question that you'd like to see us address, drop us an email, hello@spiro.media. And just like Cam, we will tackle that and hopefully provide some valuable information to help you grow in your business.
Yeah. And if you guys are looking for a platform, if you are, wanting some of those things done for you, like we have the track, we've built it over the last 19 years with Spiro. So yes, this is a shameless pitch, but once you get in there, and Craig showed this with some of his examples today, like he was able to run. I was already in the business for 12 years before, and he had started up. He gained all my knowledge. Mm-hmm. So you get that all in Spiro. It's like, invoicing you don't have to do anymore. Photographers, it's set up so that you could have contractors or W-2. And if you treat them like contractors, they're really set up like contractors. They have control. There's so much in there. Try it out. Spiro.media, free to sign up, book a call with me, visit us, or email me, hello@spiro.media.
All right. Good deal. Todd, thanks for everything you shared this week. And we hope that you found benefit to this. And we just want to, encourage you, take time to just really be thankful for the blessings in your life, in your business, your family, your personal life, whatever it is. And also make sure you take a breath this week. Have a great week.
Thank you for joining us for the Spiro Podcast, Managing Your Real Estate Photography and Videography Business. This is a production of Spiro and Wow Video Tours. You can find out more about Spiro's real estate media business management software at our website, spiro.media.